Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac with Plus. Proud of myself, you know, we kept our head on straight on the last run when things got a little goofy. Made the run work. We get to play as Kane today. I think some Kane would do you good. V92CTT13. I apologize. Shouldn't be sing-songy this early, but if there's ever a time to be loud, probably... Tough call, actually. Probably should do it before you fall asleep. I know you've just put the video on. I'll watch for 10 minutes or until my eyes start to droop, whatever comes first. Well, boy, this is the wrong video for you. What I want you to do is vividly picture you're being chased by a Kodiak grizzly bear through the woods of the Cascade Mountains of the Pacific Northwest. You're swimming on a tropical beach, 10 yards between you and the shore. You see a shark fin in the water in front of you. Deep in the recesses of outer space, unseen by modern astronomy, an asteroid hurtles towards planet. Basically, I'm just being a jerk. I'm trying to just create a deep sense of dread inside of you to prevent you from sleeping. I'm just joking. What you should actually picture is, I don't know, you know, what's comforting for me when I sleep is the idea that, you know, when I close my eyes, I always think of, like, Australia. Because, you know, I'm going to bed, but over in Australia, there's, like, you know, people going, crikey, it's a long day at work, you know? They're keeping the lights on for planet Earth. If something really bad was going to happen while I was asleep, first off, I wouldn't probably be able to do anything about it anyway. But secondarily, we've always got Australia there. Waiting. Commiserating. Say it ain't so, I will not go. Turn the lights off, carry me. Na 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 na. What if that was just the last thing I said over this whole episode? And the next 35 minutes was just me playing the game silently. I actually think that would be substantially more boring for me. Sometimes I get suggestions like that. And I understand why I get the suggestions, okay? Because I have a platform. I'm not besmirching the suggestions. It's easy for me to be like, well, if you got so many good ideas, just do them yourself. But, you know, it's the same thing. People will go like, hey, I got a great idea for a movie. And then, you know, no movie producer is going like, hey, just make the movie yourself, you know? Because you're like, well, you know, you see, Mr. Corman, I don't have $15 million. Yeah, just walk right. You know what? That's not how this item works. I was like, I thought it was the glowing hourglass. That's legitimately what happened right there. My bad. Got him. Got him. Well, we got an extra penny out of it. I'm just trying desperately to not squander my deal with the devil. Fantastic. We don't know what the pill does. Do not take it yet. Dad's key. So D7, Dad's key. Probably not two items we would consider of the most pivotal usefulness this early on, but okay. Suppose I can't really be upset about it. Dad's key gives us some kind of future prospects. Actually, an Emperor card is fantastic. So here's what I'm thinking. I do want to see if maybe there's a second secret room. It was very likely to be there. Alright. Didn't get anything of value out of that, but that's okay. What I would love to see is easy boss fight. Oh, no! As long as this guy keeps making heads, I can keep shooting them. And if I only miss once or twice, the head should always die. Oh, now I've done it. I've created a disequilibrium. We had him locked. We're actually very lucky that, you know, I was gonna say ragged, but it just seems a little too pun intended, you know. I've insulted, perhaps, the efficacy of the game designers a little bit for this boss, because I think that the champion version of Ragman you see on display right now is very, very, very difficult for the strength that you tend to have on the first floor of the game. But we did have an opportunity to keep him locked in. This is what annoys me, is that I saw, by the way, when we lost against this champion Ragman in the past, people just go, why doesn't he just focus on Ragman? Well, because there's also 4, 5, I don't know how many you can actually spawn in the end, but there's a lot of spiders on the go as well. I'm not saying I want to take out the spiders to make the fight easier, but just to make the dodges plausible when you're on low HP is very dangerous. It's an extremely annoying fight. Anyway, we did get HP, which was going to be the second part of my master plan. Beat the odds, get a deal with the devil regardless. Use the Emperor card to fight the next boss, get a deal with the devil immediately. And all of a sudden, you know, Bob's your uncle. We're in a good position. I think we should be. I mean, we're Kane. We got a little bit of extra HP. I will say, you know, if we're taking stock of the situation, the first 2 items we got here were truly awful. And I mean that sincerely. We admittedly don't have an active item as Kane, so at least one of them is fine. And the D7, there's a little bit of pepcac issue, problem exists between keyboard and chair. Didn't get a deal with the devil, that's okay. But not getting stats is the real problem. So the fact that we did get a stat upgrade there is worth a lot, in my opinion. Gertie Jr. is killable. Not always the easiest boss fight to perfect. Always nice to have a little bit of a buffer so you don't have to perfect it. But we got a good playbook for handling Gertie Jr. now. You want to stay on the parallel vectors. There you go. Easy. Deal with the devil guaranteed. A little extra HP in the process. And dude, we will definitely take Abaddon. I don't actually think Book of Sin is necessary. I like it, but, you know, I think I'm active itemed out. We can at least do something with Dad's Key. So this run now has a real chance of popping, for sure. Anyway. Feeling good. Today's Friday. Friday's a nice day for me, as I mentioned, probably every Friday. A lot of my Isaac episodes end up being recorded on Fridays. Just due to the way my schedule lines up, you know. Tuesday is my weakest recording day now because there's so much streaming that happens on it. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's a decent amount of recording, but also, you know, I'm predominantly focused on the stream. Really, like, Friday and Sunday are big recording days for me now. So I record a lot of Isaac on Fridays, which is nice, to be honest with you. Because, again, I like recording. Recording is not like time off. It's weird for me now to think back and realize that, you know, I mean, for the first, like, 2 years of my YouTube career, I did not stream at all, and this was, like, my only responsibility was making YouTube videos. You know, so I sit down in my chair at, like, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and I would pump out, I don't know, 6 or 7 YouTube videos, various different series, and talk to nobody except myself, and, I think it's a healthier... As much as streaming does expose you to some unhealthy elements, you know, I think a lot of streamers suffer a lot, and not for, you know, their own stupidity. I think a lot of streamers suffer a lot through getting a lot of anonymous feedback. That can be draining. I'll tell you, I mean, it gets to me sometimes too. I've gotten a lot better about it, you know, every year especially. And now, you know, the tools for not getting rattled by anonymous feedback, I think, are, like, kind of obvious. It largely boils down to, you know, remember that the majority of people that are talking, like, if you recognize someone's username and they leave something that you might construe as flaming, just consider that, you know, I'm not saying blame the victim, i.e. yourself, but remember they're probably a fan who is just like, you know, they're being constructive but maybe taking it a step too far. They think they're being constructive and maybe taking it a step too far. And if you get somebody that just comes in a chat and goes, haha, your mom dumb, that's not really, like, just ban them. I mean, that's not something worth getting rattled about. Now, if you got something more serious than that going on, I understand. But anyway, I think it's more healthy now that, like, gotta got a little bit more stream time, a little bit more time to interface with the audience, and if it seems like there's some kind of community problem going on, nipping it in the bud and being like, hey, I acknowledge the kind of feedback that I'm getting, and I'll try to implement it instead of it coming up like 6 months down the road. The only thing that rattles me, backseating I love, legitimately love. It helps me out so much in games where, as a child or even a teenager, I would just be stuck for hours and hours not knowing where to go. People are like, go to the water temple. And I'm like, where's the water temple? And they're like, at the Gerudo Valley, go over the bridge. And I use it as a crutch, and I'm happy to do so. If you're happy to feel important by giving me the feedback, I'm happy to take the feedback and make my life easier as well. Where's this secret room? I don't know, so I'm going to leave. But, I guess we could use the moon, but I think I'd rather save it for maybe boss rush potential, but we'll see. The only thing that gets me is, you know, my audience and I, and everybody on the show as well, I guess, I wouldn't say we have an adversarial relationship, because I think that's bad. What we have is a relationship where we can challenge one another, and we can be like, hey, that thing that you said earlier, I don't quite buy it, you know, would you like to explain yourself a little bit more, and, you know, have what you just said, you know, held up to a little bit more scrutiny, and maybe we can mine some humor out of the situation, but coming from a place of you know, love and respect for both of us, hopefully, but sometimes we lose the plot a little bit. Does that cover the show? I hope that's the vibe I'm trying to create. I would say we've had a few misfires, but for the most part, that's what I try to get across. Anyway, sometimes I think chat they don't recognize where the bit delineates into real life. And I'll be like, you know, so I saw my in-laws this weekend, and people will be like, why do you see your in-laws so much? And I'm like, okay, this is, you know, maybe I shouldn't have even brought it up. I guess it's the danger of bringing up your personal life, but you don't get the backseat that part, you know? You don't get the backseat, my family life, hobbies, stuff like that. You know, I've had, the only time, I don't even think it crosses the line. And I think we play it up as a joke relatively well, but, you know, sometimes I'll have like an assignment for school. And I'll like talk about the assignment, and people will be like, why'd you do it that way? You should have done it this way. And I'm like, all right. I mean, you might be right. First off, you kind of sound like a dick. But secondarily, I got 100 on it. So, like, I'm feeling okay. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. In all likelihood, you're probably right. But if you want to get hired at one of the big four, to be honest with you, you should really work on your soft skills. And I say this from a place of mutual respect. Like, being a great closure programmer is one thing, but it's going to cause you problems if, you know, people in the workplace feel like they can't come to you with comments, suggestions, and criticism because you're just going to, you know, big head them and be like, well, why'd you do it like this? You should have done it like this, you know? Being the most talented developer in the world, you know, anybody can do that. It doesn't give you a license to pretend to be a rock star and be rude to your coworkers and colleagues, you know? So, in a way, I think we're training each other. Chat reminds me that the syntax is system.out.writeLine, open parentheses, quotation mark, hello world. And I remind chat, hey, you know, if your coworker says they're having a bad day, what you should reply with after that is, oh, what happened? You shouldn't just go, well, everybody has bad days. I'm not trying to play up the stereotype that programmers have bad social skills. Because I think in my classes, you know, there are a few people for sure that have, and this is meant with no malice towards them, have fit the stereotype of, like, you know, computer programmers who maybe are not necessarily the most socially adept. However, I've also had a lot of people, especially because I'm in, I think, classes for, you know, older people, or people that are, you know, already established in a different field maybe. People that have worked in the workforce and, you know, are just well-adjusted and know how to talk to people without being perceived as impolite or aloof. And it's cool. That's a damage upgrade if we choose not to spend the money at least. And we will go back for the item room. All I'm going to say is that to get my degree, my school does make me take a class, and I'm thankful I already took it. And the class is like 30%, you know, agile development, which is cool, and 70%, if a dispute happens in the workplace, how can you resolve it? You know, how do you talk to other human beings? And I don't necessarily blame them. You know, your school might have a good reputation for producing competent, accomplished developers with a lot of hands-on experience. Is not necessarily something that happens at every, you know, four-year university. Sometimes you leave with a lot of theoretical knowledge and maybe not a lot of hands-on experience, both of which I'm sure have their place. But, you know, if they can't have a conversation in the workforce without being reported to HR, that's going to reflect badly on your alma mater. So, I understand. It was also the most boring class I've ever taken in my entire life. Jennifer in HR says that she thinks it would be cool if airplanes had pink sparkles on the outside. What do you say in response? And you want to get an A+, is basically like, don't say, hey Jennifer, that's dumb. You got to come up with a diplomatic response. Tell Jennifer that it's a good idea, but perhaps the scope of the project doesn't behoove us to add extra complexity in a non-functional requirements capacity. Like A+. You told Jennifer to F off without actually telling her to F off. Anyway. Yo, I will reroll this run. Well, you know what? I was gonna say I hate to lose the D or the dad's key, but I don't really. I mean, we fight Mega Satan on occasion to begin with. I mean, every time we have the opportunity to get the keys, we tend to give him a shot. So I feel like the D Infinity is actually just substantially more prudent right now. Okay, we will probably roll this. You know what? Actually, I don't think we will. It's good, but it's too good. I wouldn't feel good about sticking with Mom's Knife as my run. That's just, it's a coward's way out. But what I will do is use this Yera, and I will pick up the 2 of diamonds. Then I'll D4. What do we get out of the D4? We have a run that I would consider probably a little bit subpar. We'll buy 2 of diamonds. We'll buy the battery charge. Okay, we've re-rolled into spun. Now, this is sort of what I was hoping to get at, is, you know, a situation where we're getting to transformations. This one is still pretty terrible from a DPS standpoint.
Feels like I'm
I will purchase the battery for something extra to reroll and charge baby just because we got the cash and the capital. Please stop standing there. What do we got here? I'm basically looking at it from a statistical standpoint, and I'm looking and I'm liking, to be honest. Our speed, it feels bad, but it's not actually that bad. I think this is a run we could live with. And you know what? Having reconfigured our run to perhaps a more suitable configuration, I'm gonna go pick up Dad's key again. I think the D100 has done us an incredible service, and we're leaving statistically, especially from the HP standpoint, so much better than we started. I just wanted to see what our bombs felt like without, I mean, I wanted to be lazy about it, I suppose. YouTubing is a weird job, is basically the gist of what I was getting at earlier. I like the mix of YouTubing and streaming. Some people, I mean, you know, we're getting a little bit too inside baseball. YouTube has had a tumultuous few years. I think that a lot of the criticism directed at YouTube for being ignorant of what their creators actually want and just doing whatever they thought was appropriate is fair. I think a lot of that is valid. I also resent the platform. Not 100% resent, but I have a little resentment for the platform because a few bad actors doing incendiary things resulted in policy changes to the website that mostly didn't inhibit those bad actors from growing and doing the things that, you know, maybe caused the controversy in the first place, but have reflected in negative changes for other content creators that have been good actors or, you know, tried to behave by the rules of the platform for a long time. So I think that is, I think that's all valid. But I also think a lot of YouTubers, in the interest of, this is going to be a very self-inflating sort of thing for me, but I think a lot of them kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater, and they went, you know, this platform is becoming a bit of a toxic place. I'm going to leave and spend all my time on Twitch or on Mixer or on, you know, wherever. And I don't know, I never really considered that as an option, because I still, believe it or not, for all the real ego that I have, and also the faux ego that I put on in order to play a little bit of a character on stream and in video, the fact that, you know, a lot of people still watch my videos, particularly Isaac, you know, is very flattering to me. And the idea that, you know, the platform holder disrespected me a little bit, so I'm gonna stop making those videos that people have made a habit and a ritual in their own lives without, again, being way overly self-inflating. It never seemed like an option to me. I like the mix. I will say, if I was exclusively on YouTube, I would probably resent the platform a lot more. If I was exclusively on Twitch, though, I don't know. You know, you see different problems with that. I think being live all the time also has negative impact potentially. But I think definitely Twitch has done a much better job of listening to its partners and making a platform that's more conducive, because it's less beholden to big advertisers. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, a lot of the revenue that comes in on Twitch is driven. Oh, Parasitoid Tears is pretty good. Is driven by the viewers, you know. Whereas on YouTube, there's not a culture of. I mean, YouTube Premium is cool, and you know, Kate has a subscription. I don't know if I have a subscription. I have Google Play Music. I can't remember if that gives me YouTube Premium. Because to be honest with you, I don't watch YouTube outside of my own work. Even like viral videos, I don't want to watch. It just is like, it's like going to the office. I don't like, the website causes me a little bit of stress because it's my job, so I don't like to be on the website unless there's a very compelling reason in my off hours. I understand it might seem a little weird, but you know, I think I see YouTube different than a lot of people. But yeah, anyway, I'm happy you're here is what I'm trying to say, and I don't know. I never really considered it an option to be like, yeah, that thing I spent a long time building, I'm just gonna stop doing it because YouTube has been a little bit toxic lately. I don't see it like that. I see it as, you know, I got a very, let's take it as like a zen approach to content where there's gonna be ebbs and flows, and that's life, you know, riding the waves of those ebbs and flows from a professional standpoint. It's gives you strong legs. Which is a meaningless metaphor, but I want to pivot off of the conversation, so I'm just saying I'm happy you're here. Ecosystems changed a lot recently. It's crazy, you know, YouTube stars are in, like, you know, Super Bowl commercials and stuff like that. It's wild, you know? 6 years ago, I couldn't get PR to respond to my emails. I work at an outlet called youtube.com/Northernlion. Oh, YouTube, you can make money doing that. You don't work at like GameSpy? I'm not saying I ushered it in, by the way. I'm just saying. Well, we've missed our window here for getting to boss rush, but that's okay. This run is very sustainable, just in terms of a health-related standpoint. Don't really want to go to the curse room unless I take damage in advance. Anyway, I want to pivot off this conversation, not because I'm going to say something controversial, because it's just because, you know, there's YouTubers out there that all they do is make videos about YouTube, and I hate YouTube. YouTube sucks. By the way, is my job. That doesn't make them hypocrites. It just kind of, you know, in my opinion, is sort of a one-trick pony sort of thing. I get that there's a portion of my audience that cares about the inside baseball of YouTube and Twitch, but my personal opinion is, you know, you can get that from other sources. You don't have to get it from me. Because that's not the kind of content I want to make, is content that's entirely self-centered. It sounds weird, but for a guy that, you know, spends a lot of the day talking to himself and, you know, basically his level of success hinges on convincing people to watch hours and hours of his content on a weekly basis, if not daily, I really, like, I don't want to talk about my job much, because I think it's just, I would love to pretend that it's like so interesting, and I, like, you know, every day I experience something. I'm jumping out of helicopters and you should try it, it'll change your life. It's not really like, I'm not that dude. I just sit in my office chair and I record and I feel fulfilled, weirdly enough. Like, I was watching this documentary on Netflix. This is how you know I've exhausted all of Netflix's documentary options. I watched a documentary called The True Stories of Bill Murray. Bill Murray, just for a little bit of context, has what essentially amount to like urban legends that are almost certainly actually true. And you know what? I'm not going to the curse room just because I'm actually slightly concerned about our HP moving forward, even with the devil precedent. But you know what? Let's do it. Where, you know, he would be at South by Southwest, the festival in Texas, and he would just be serving people drinks behind the bar. You know, he's a Hollywood actor that's got a 40-year career in comedy, but, you know, people would come up and be like, hey, I'll have a Jack and Coke, and then he would just hand them, like, a shot of straight tequila. You know, it's a funny story. I mean, no disrespect to Bill Murray, but it's kind of like, I don't know, without being rude, I don't find it that interesting. But, where was I going with this? I don't know. Anyway, I was watching this documentary. It's like, it's well made, but at the end of the day, I was kind of like, I mean, I was having a good time watching. I was like, he seems like an interesting guy. I know he's got, you know, some issues in his own, you know, personal history, but simultaneously, you know, I'm not privy to that information, and you know, I'm just exhausted with finding. And, you know, I probably shouldn't even say this, but with, you know, as soon as you're like, I like something, finding a reason to be like, you know, well, 8 years ago, the director of photography tweeted, you know, something stupid, so I can't watch that, you know? I've decided to opt out. It's a luxury I have. Maybe not everybody feels that luxury, and that's also fine. But, help. I actually completely forgot where I was going in this conversation. Oh, no, I do remember now. It was a good one. Thank you. Thank you, Brain, for bringing this to the forefront again. There's a guy who was telling a story. He's like, so we were out after work. We go to karaoke, as we often do. And one of my friends came into the karaoke room and was like, bro, you won't believe it. Bill Murray just walked into the karaoke house. They were like, no way. So his friend walked up to Bill Murray, takes cojones for sure, and said, hey, Bill, you know, welcome to the place. If you're interested, we got a private room. You're more than welcome to join us. Just pop by. It's like room 17. And, you know, we'd love to see you there, but no pressure. So Bill Murray, 20 minutes later, knocks on the door, shows up, and he starts singing duets with people. So once-in-a-lifetime story, no doubt about it. But he mentioned that, you know, people from his office that said no to the karaoke night, like, nah, I gotta go home early and catch some Z's. You know, they were upset because they were like, man, if I had just gone to that night, I could have seen Bill Murray. And I think, like, definitely 10 years ago, maybe even like 5 years ago, I would have been like, dude, if I missed Bill Murray, that would be like a regret I'd have for like my whole life. They interviewed one dude and he was like, yeah, I didn't go, pretty mad about it. And maybe this is just the needless contrarian in me, but I found myself, I was putting myself in their shoes, and I was like, you know what? I think I would be disappointed, but I don't think it would bother me all that much. I'd be like, yeah, I missed a once-in-a-lifetime karaoke session with Bill Murray, but at the same time, you know, I got a great night's sleep that night. I'm not saying the great night's sleep would be better. Obviously, if I had known Bill Murray was going to be there, I would have said, yeah, I'll go. I'll go watch Bill Murray sing some duets. But what am I going to do? Go to every karaoke session for the rest of all time in the hopes that Bill Murray's going to be there? Some people will take an overarching lesson out of this, I'm sure, and the lesson will be like, say yes to more things. Maybe even say yes to everything, right? Because you never know, you might have the time of your life. Yeah, but alternatively, you might go broke doing so much karaoke, or like do a lot of damage to your liver because everybody's hammered. So like, I'm not saying you shouldn't do this now and then. I'm just saying I balked a little bit at the life lesson that they had of like, say yes to everything and live in the moment. They also did something that I resent, which is they resorted to the most easy criticism as a lesson of all time. These days, you know, we're all so wrapped up in our telephones, always looking at our cellular telephones, not living in the moment. And I think, you know, the untold stories of Bill Murray really just teach us, you know, live in that moment, live improvisationally. And I'm like, dude, I respect that. I mean, I do a show that, I mean, it's conversation, but there's an element of it that is definitely steeped in improv. Simultaneously, I just don't know why you have to resort to the... And this wasn't Bill Murray saying, this is the filmmaker. Or it was one of the people he was interviewing. So, like, you know, they're not a sociologist, but still at the same time, I just find it so... Like, I have the same reaction to that I'm sure a lot of other people have when they're like, I blame video games, you know? Where I just roll my eyes and go, if you can't come up with a coherent criticism for the modern generation beyond, like, they look at their telephones a lot. Like, you got some work to do, okay? It's never even anything, like, maybe there's a deeper meaning to, like, they're looking at their telephones a lot. Like, whenever I criticize the modern, cellular, always connected culture, I criticize it for two reasons. One is, and this is very old fogey of me, but I do think that, you know, there's a certain skill in being able to be bored and not having to resort to, you know, immediately seeking out the most near source of gratification and entertainment at every single instance of your life. And I think that some of that, to some extent, has been lost with, you know, the rise of basically cellular technology and the internet and et cetera, et cetera. But I also don't think it's that big of a deal. And then the other one is just like, I don't know, the inanity of sharing literally absolutely everything you do on social media, and, you know, the desire to be famous by posting a bunch of pictures of, like, I don't know, pudding or something like that is, I don't know if it's an erosion of cultural values or whatever. It's just like, you know, I find it annoying. It was a nightmare when my niece, you know, at our Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner was like, is Uncle Ryan famous? And everybody else was like, yes. And I was like, well, you know, not really. Not in the whole scheme of the platform and all that. And then my niece said, I want to be famous. That was the closest I got to giving a stern lecture. No, you don't want to be famous. You want to be rich. Those are two different things. Being famous is whatever, you know? It means when you say you had Thanksgiving dinner with your in-laws, people go, why do you have dinner with your in-laws so much? You want the other side of the equation. Anyway. Just people living in the moment. No, not a cell phone in sight. But yeah, I think, you know, I put myself in those shoes, and I was like, of course I'm not going to say, like, well, I'm glad I didn't, even if I'd known that Bill Murray was coming, I wouldn't have gone to karaoke, because I wanted to get 9 hours of sleep that night. That's stupid. That's a caricature of myself. But, you know, again, I don't think you can live your whole life being like, yeah, sure, let's get trashed every night. Maybe Bill Murray will show up. That's also an equally destructive way to, well, that's an unequally destructive way to live your life. So you got this amazing Bill Murray story, and that's cool. I don't resent that. Stories are, you know, important. But I don't know, man. I'm like way less interested in stories in my 30s so far than I am in just like, you know, hours and hours of wonderful, peaceful, restful sleep. Waking up with a smile on my face and going like, I feel pretty good. I've done the 20s thing. Bill Murray never showed up. Maybe in the next life when we're both cats, okay? It's because I don't live in Charleston, South Carolina. The closest I've ever come to a moment like that is at Champions of Fire 1. There were two celebrities there. Tony Hawk at the after party. They were paid to be at the after party, by the way, which is sad that had to happen. It's also sad because I realized that Tony Hawk and Chuck the Iceman Liddell, and I don't mean to besmirch their good names at all, because I mean I'm kind of in the biz, just at a much lower level. Probably the entire prize pool for Champions of Fire, which we worked like, you know, 40 hours on set to do, not to mention, you know, the camera crew and the other people involved in producing the event, and all the practice at home as well in the month or 6 weeks leading up to the event. All of the prize money for that event was probably equaled by the appearance fee that Tony Hawk and Chuck the Iceman Liddell got to show up at the after party at whatever the club in Caesar's Palace is for like, I don't know, 2 hours. I'm not saying it rubs me the wrong way, because here's the thing, that's the biz. Not everyone at Champions of Fire made the same amount of money either, you know? If you won, I mean, BoxBox got 30 G's for winning the event. That's a real good payday for basically just having preternatural video gaming skills and then, you know, playing some toys. All I'm saying is they could have doubled that prize pool and not had Tony Hawk and Chuck the Iceman Liddell show up, but what do I know? I mean, here's the thing. I mean, is that, like, this is very good. Hello, Ruka. And like this, I think we should do it like this. Dad's key, open the door, grab the sprinkler, everybody walk the dinosaur, use this, and then go for it. Don't even think about it. No cell phones, just living in the moment. And, you know, I caught the glance of Chuck the Iceman Liddell. You know, here's everything I know about Chuck the Iceman Liddell. He is named Chuck Liddell. His nickname is the Iceman, and he competes or competed in mixed martial arts, including the Ultimate Fighting Championship, also known as UFCA. And, you know, I was with a couple of friends, and they were like, do you want to get a picture with Chuck the Iceman Liddell? And I was like, no. This is meant... It's actually the most respect I can muster for a celebrity stranger. I'm not going to waste his time getting a photo with him just because he's famous. I don't know who he is. Like, I have never interacted with anything that has any relevant knowledge to Chuck the Iceman Liddell. Chuck the Iceman Liddell can have an extra 30 seconds of serenity, and I don't need to go up to him and take a photo of him. Just so late. If you're a UFC fan, you know, of course, go get your photo taken with him. That's why he's getting paid to be at the event. But, you know, for me to just go up and get a photo taken with him and then on Facebook later be like, Chuck the Iceman Liddell! And then have like 4 people go, whoa, what's that? You know, that doesn't interest me. I would rather have a smug little bit of self-satisfaction knowing that Chuck the Iceman Liddell was not burdened unnecessarily by me coming up to take a photo of somebody that I have never, you know, known any of the media that he's been involved with. Now, Tony Hawk, I would have gotten a photo with Tony Hawk, but I think we arrived too late and Tony Hawk had gone home, which tells me everything I need to know about Tony Hawk, which is that he is a very respectable celebrity. Because if it was like 140 decibels at all times in that club, it sucked. By my standards, at least. Because I only go to places that have at least 175 decibels. The ceiling was like a transformer. Like, it was all, it was like these weird geometric shapes that, like, pneumatic... I mean, it's Las Vegas, right? Like, you know, people go there to party. And this place was bumping. And I was like, man, this place is bumping. It sucks. Anytime I say something is bumping, I almost exclusively mean it as an insult to the establishment. I'm like, hey, could you turn down the music a little bit? I'm trying to have a conversation about Tony Hawk. Basically, I'm 100. But I would have been out of there as soon as my, well, as soon as people stop coming up to me. I don't want to be like, hey, bro, sorry, I know, you know, I'm like your childhood hero or whatever, but Amazon only paid me for 90 minutes of photos. And it's 10:29:59, so it's time for me to go. Alright, we won. It was a little spotty here, but I'm just saying, I'd be out as soon as it was prudent. Hey, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the episode, if you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!